Last week at Long Beach, the gap between first-placed Mauricio Cuero and second-placed Horacio Calquin at the finish was 20.5 seconds. This week, the drivers have taken a 20.5-hour flight halfway around the virtual world to a little circuit called Barcelona, Catalunya. This track has played host to everything from Formula One to the European Truck Racing Championship to the Summer Olympics, and tonight, for the first time, it welcomes the PRL Sportscar Series. You'll see it all live right here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hola a todos, me llamo Joey Tebben, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Galleta Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Barcelona's hosted every class of car under the sun in its short history, but that doesn't make it any less difficult to master. Let's head over to our track guide to learn more about it.
Welcome to Circuit de Barcelona. The home of the Spanish Grand Prix for nearly 30 years, it's easy to forget that this is a relatively recently built track in Europe. It's known for its long, sweeping corners and hosts the highest level of open-wheel and motorcycle racing. Placing an emphasis on a good aerodynamic setup with high downforce cars, it's often overlooked that it offers plenty of overtaking for lower-tier racing as well. In fact, most don't take into account that this adaptable track has 5 different layouts to choose from. These range from the nearly 3-mile-long Grand Prix version to the minuscule 1-mile club circuit. Because of the pit straight being the longest acceleration zone, Elf is the most likely spot for drivers to get it past them. After that, your next hope might be into Lacaja, which, depending on which layout you use, could be a sharpened set of 2 turns or one long hairpin with an opening radius. In the early 2000s, a chicane was added close to the end of the lap, but the old Europe car corner can still be run. The Spanish fans have some gorgeous views from the many hills dotted along the track. And with the international fame this place has built over time, it's no wonder they're almost always full come race day.
And as we come back into the action here at Barcelona, let's take a look at the track description of the Barcelona historic layout we're racing on today. DJ, do you want to explain to people how this differs from the Barcelona layout they may be familiar with in F1?
Well, Joey, as we've seen in the news in F1, this may be the circuit they're racing on in the future, but the biggest difference to take out of this is that final sequence of corners going down into Europe Car and New Holland. Those final 2 corners, there is no chicane there, which means the drivers are going to be able to carry a lot more speed onto the main straightaway, and that means that the draft is going to be all the more important. So look for a lot of passing going down into Elf. Also important to keep in mind, the hairpin at the end of the back straightaway is elongated. It's the old way of running it. It's not nearly as tight, and there's a couple of extra meters at the end of it. So they may be able to pick up a little bit more draft, and we may be able to see some drafting there. But as we always talk about in this series, it is multi-class, so there's going to be a couple of areas of real concern between these LMP2s and GTEs. Particularly, one of the biggest areas is going to be SIMMSA, that wickedly fast right-handed sweeper at the top of the hill. The LMP2s have to do a little bit of brush braking there, and the GTEs have to do a little bit more braking, so you really don't want to get caught behind a GTE if you're driving one of the prototypes, as it can really catch you out. One of the other areas that we're going to have to watch out for that big speed and downforce differential, that's going to be in Renault, that epically long right-hander as it climbs its way up the hill, at the end of which we will remember is the infamous site of the Hamilton and Rosberg coming together. Now, with the more downforce on the LMP2s, they're going to be able to go a little bit faster through there, just barely have to feather the throttle. The GTEs are going to have to lift off a little bit more, be a little more precise with their steering going in, so that could be an area of contention when the field starts to mix its way through.
Indeed, it will. We'll prepare ourselves for lots of drama and a very exciting race, but we can't have a race without sponsors, and we'd like to thank all of the sponsors for tonight's race, including SimMSA. Tonight's race is brought to you by SimMSA, Simulation Motorsports Affinity. It provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SimMSA.net.
The PRL Sportscar Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
And today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. Thanks to all of our fantastic sponsors. Next, we'd like to take a look at the championship coming into round 5 here at Barcelona. DJ, take us through the LMP2 standings.
Well, as you can see, it is getting very, very crowded at the top. Tiensai Leighton still holding on to that points advantage despite not winning a race for the final lap racing driver. But Mauricio Cuero starting to close in on him, and then a two-way tie for third place between Calquin and Ooms, only 8 points back. So that first place, very, very much up for grabs. Christian Eisler back and forth. We've talked about his rough seasons that he has been having. Still running pretty well, though, with that fourth place. And then David Duino is 25 points back in fifth. Then, looking over to the GTE standings, it is a little bit more spaced out there at the top. Don Skorak really putting in some good times with 3 wins on the season. He leads Michael Ross by 13 points, but Ross in that Ford GT, always somebody to watch out for. Rafael Russo has also been very, very consistent, just in the top 5. Every race seems to always be on the podium and always a threat. He's 21 points back, so definitely within striking distance of Ross. A big gap, though, back to James David in 4th, but a very tight battle between him and Ted Lowendick, separated only by a point.
Now we'll take a look at the team standings for both of these classes. The LMP2 team standings led by Punto CL Racing, Rojo, or Red in English, with 219 points. They've got a big lead over second placed Vector by RSR LMP. Then it's the second of the Punto CL Racing teams, the Azul team, followed by Final Lap Racing, and in 5th place it is Dirty Torque Sim Racing, rounding out the top 5 in LMP2. In GTE, it's led by L1 eSports, 35 points ahead of Davidson Motorsports, followed by Vector by RSR GTE, Radicals Online, and Team Oblivion Racing. Rounds out your top 5 here in the team standings.
And we'll also take a look at those race details. This is the halfway point of the season in round 5 of 10 in the PRL Sports Car Series. Now, we talked about the prototypes. Everybody's out going to be there in that top class. They're going to be running the Dallara LMP2s and a plethora of GTEs for the lower class guys to take, including the Ferrari, the BMW, the Corvette, the Porsche, and that Ford GT. Now, it's an open setup series, so everybody's able to tweak and tune what they want, but fuel is limited. So everybody guaranteed to take a stop in this very, very quick 45-minute race here today. Now, the incident points, we always talk about this. They changed it coming into this season. You get a drive-through at 10x at a place like Barcelona where there's plenty of places to run wide and really not damage the car. That could come into play. Disqualified at 15 points. And as close as these championships are at the top, remember the bonus points that these guys can get. They'll be wanting to get all of them. You get 1 for fastest lap, you get 1 for pole, and you get an additional 1 if you're able to keep it at 3 incidents or less.
Always tough to get less than 3 incident points in any race, but especially in a multi-class race like this as we come back in to see the last 5 or 6 minutes qualifying here. That is one of the Punto CL Racing cars on the track. Our qualifying leader at the moment, Horacio Calquin, on pole at the moment. Now, I'd like to talk about some of the stories of the race as we watch Calquin go around the track here. Do you think that this historic layout will make it easier or harder for these LMP2s to get through the GTEs? We've traded out the hairpin for a little bit of a wider hairpin. We've traded out the chicane for a fast sweeper. How do you think that'll change the dynamic here?
Well, I think it is going to be a little bit easier because there's going to be more speed to be had and the track is going to be a little bit wider, Joey. But the problem's going to be is that those, specifically around those last two corners, as we luckily see Cal Quinn coming through right about now, that those are very, very fast corners and those are very tricky places to overtake, especially as the track continues to evolve, that drivers don't want to get too offline there. So they'll be able to get past, but they're going to sacrifice some time in doing so.
And even in LMP2 cars, we do worry about dirty air, especially in fast sweepers like that, as you said. We see David Duino coming to the line to finish his second lap or first lap. Not sure what lap that was, but here's Stacy Kyle Dunigan. Fastest lap was 1:30.4, and now it's a 1:30.1. That puts Stacy Kyle Dunigan in P7.
And here comes your championship leader, Tiensai Leighton, coming to the line. He has been able to just keep up solid performances here, crosses over with a 29.9. That's not the best for him. He will be the second to slowest time there in 7th.
It's Don Squirick on pole at the moment in the GTE class, as we see Kwok Nin coming to the line for the one-piece Demon Racing team in that number 239 car. This isn't looking like a great lap. I think there may have been a bit of an incident earlier on in the lap, as Kwok Nin is 3 seconds off his previous fastest lap.
And here comes Lou Barreto. This is a great onboard. You can see just how much not having that chicane allows these cars to keep up the speed. Let's see what Barreto's got. Currently back in 15th, able to improve the time there by about 0.2 of a second. He'll bump his way up 4 spots into 11th place.
As Barreto goes around for another lap. Remember that it is a 4-lap qualifying here. You get 4 chances. As here we see Paulo Munoz from the LMP2 class coming to the line. That's a 1:0. It's not a 1:04.727. That's a little bit of a graphical glitch there. Ignore that. David Duino crosses the line. He stays P6 as he goes to set another lap.
And here comes one of the independent GTE drivers, Gabriel Lavadier, coming to the line right now. Has not set a time yet. It's going to cross over with a 38.8. That's going to put him in 17th as of right now, near the back of the field.
So there's 3 minutes left in qualifying. Let's run you through the top 3 in each class right now. In LMP2, it's currently Mauricio Cuero on pole, followed by Paulo Munoz and Horacio Calquin. In GTE, top 3 on your screen are Don Squirick, Michael Ross, and Iago Moraes, top 3.
And here comes Desjardins crossing over the line. That's going to be about a 10th better for him and gets him to stay in 19th. Kwok Nin trying to improve as well. And Joey, I got to tell you that top 2 in the GTE field, utterly unsurprising. We have seen Squirick and Ross just absolutely battling tooth and nail throughout the course of this season. So good to see them starting out on the front row together. Hopefully we'll set up a cracker of a battle for us here today.
And of course, Squirick is our defending winner. He was the GTE class winner at Long Beach, so he's going to want to defend his title here, defend his victory. And I don't think Michael Ross wants him to do that. I think he'll be hungry to take that title back of defending winner.
Yeah, he certainly will. If we remember back to that race at Road America, the battle between the two of them, absolutely spectacular racing with Ross running out just as he crossed over the line. Here comes Thomas Cope for Team Oblivion Racing. Looks like that was a bit of an off-track or a outlap for Thomas. But here is our championship leader in those LMP2s. This is Tiensai Leighton, not going to be able to go faster on this lap.
Championship leader is going to be disappointed with 6th in qualifying in an 8-car LMP2 field, but that lead in the championship has come from pure consistency, so just staying out of trouble is going to be more important than raw pace necessarily, as we see Jerome Berthiaume, Team Oblivion Racing, one of the last drivers who has not set all 4 qualifying laps yet, coming to the line, stays 8th.
And here comes Desjardins coming across. That is going to be an improvement there from the independent driver, able to bump his way up a spot or 2. Kwok Nin trying to get that last lap in here to get himself up from 21st, currently last of the drivers with a qualifying time. This one's not going to be fast for him.
In a way, starting last might be one of the safest places you can you can start because you're going to stay out of trouble, especially if things stack up going through the first couple corners, the ones we see on screen there. That's usually a tough spot in the first couple laps of the race, and you can see that there's gravel there. It's not all asphalt runoff.
No, it's not, and it'll certainly slow the drivers down. It does narrow up a quite large amount as you dive down into Elf, so drivers are going to have to be very, very careful of that. We've seen a couple of comings together in the beginning laps, and this is certainly a track that presents ample opportunity for that to happen.
Well, as qualifying comes to an end, we've got about 8 seconds left. I don't think we'll be seeing anyone else setting times. Let's take a look at the grid, if we can, starting with the LMP2 class. And there goes the qualifying session. It has rolled over. The race session has begun, and the grid will be on our screens momentarily. In pole position, it's Mauricio Cuero, defending winner, our winner from Long Beach. Then it's Paulo Munoz in second place, followed by Horacio Calquin in third. Then it's Jeffrey Ooms in fourth. Row 3 is Christian Eisler and Tiensai Leighton. Row 4 is David Duino and Stacey Kyle Dunigan. And the only other LMP2 is Ben Lafter, who will start 9th, but he'll be at the back of the field in the starting grid graphic.
In the GTE class, it is Don Skoric and Michael Ross, your championship contenders, neck and neck, with Rafael Russo right behind them in third, and Iago Morris to Russo's outside. Behind them, it's Thomas Cope and Arnaud Genet making up row 7, followed by EJ O'Donnell Lines in 7th and Jerome Berthum in 8th. Luis Pime Jr. is in 9th, and James David will round out your top 10. Jennifer McDonald is going to start off in 11th, followed by Lou Barreto. Vincent Trepanier will be 13th, followed by Jean-Claude Langlois in 14th, and Gabriel Lavadier in 15th. In the 16th spot is Patrick Arsenault with Teddy Lowendick to his outside in 17th. Johnny Luna will line up 18th, followed by Marc-Andre Desjardins, Michael Plord, then in 20th to round out your top 20, and the final 3, Kwok Nin, Kenny Rogers, and Philippe Magnin.
And there you saw Ben Lafter did not qualify, but will start 9th in the LMP2 field. And now, as we grid up for the race, let's take a look through some of the cameras we have here for some of our drivers. We'll see who we can load up first. This is Horacio Calquin, our third place starter in a very, very purple room. I can see the RGB keyboard over there. Very, very nice there with Horacio. Oh, that's a nice setup right there. 3 screens. I believe that's Thomas Cope we're hearing. A nice Apple symbol on that chair. Not sure why you're running an Apple symbol with a PC, but we won't talk about that. And let's address the elephant in the room. David Duino. We love his headwear. The sign on his left has changed as well. It says, "In my defense, I was left unsupervised." And clearly you leave David Duino unsupervised, puts an elephant on his head. Ted Lowendick, no green morph suit on today, but he does resemble a Power Ranger in that red hoodie, I think. Looks like a couple die casts off to the right there. Can't quite see what those are, but hopefully someone in the chat can analyze those. We've got some FBI level investigators here. Ben Lafter. Hey, that's normal. That's more normal. Just got a couple DVDs and CDs over there. Bit of VR. Nice stuff going there. Oh, we thought the last one was simple. EJ, nice little gray room. You could use that as a green screen. It's a solid wall. Paulo Munoz, another gray wall, but up front the race is starting. The LMP2s are off. It's a great start for Mauricio Cuero as the rest of the field follows in behind. Are we to go 3 wide into turn 1? Almost, but everyone does make it through cleanly.
And back in those GTEs, it was a very, very good start for Don Skoric. Rafael Russo having a challenge to Michael Ross going down into that first chicane, but had to back off a little bit. Iago Morris keeping everything up nice and calm. This turning into a nice little 3-way battle for second.
No positions have changed in the LMP2 class. A very, very clean start. A little bit of beating and banging for 7th and 8th between Eisler and Dunigan, but other than that, it's been a clean start all the way through the field.
It has indeed. We keep our eyes up there. We look at the number 79. That is your leader, Mauricio Cuero, hoping to do what he has done many times this season and just pull away. But behind him, Paulo Munoz trying to keep that advantage. Now everybody starts to fan out. That's that SIMMSA corner. And now we dive into the first time that elongated hairpin like we talked about in the beginning.
It's a bit of a wide exit. It's a tough one to get right, but it looks like everyone has got it. It is a passing zone, but everyone's still running in qualifying order. I believe the biggest mover in the field altogether, no one. I don't think anyone has made up a position yet, but you know, that's good. Everyone's keeping it together. Everyone's keeping it in a straight line, and we've had no retirements on the first lap, so that's an accomplishment.
As we jump back here to take a look at that second place in the GTEs, that battle between Michael Ross, Rafael Russo, and Thomas Cope, you can see the straight line fanning out. That is Cope really trying to get past Russo here. He's been able to get past Moraes going through those corners, trying to get that Porsche any way he can get up to that Ferrari. We've seen the Porsche have some pretty deadly straight line speed, so watch for maybe a draft pass happening here at some point.
We snake through the middle sector, a little bit of a look around the outside further back as we ride on board here. It's a very twisty section. There's Thomas Cope chasing down Russo, but through this section it's very, very hard to make a pass. You can see Cope working on the wheel there. Not making too many adjustments here, just keeping it smooth. It's only lap 2. No need to do anything too aggressive just yet.
Exactly, and you see him there being very ginger with those curbs. That's something we haven't had a chance to talk about. There are some big sausage curbs out to the outside of the red and white curbing here at Circuit de Catalunya, and drivers have to be very, very careful of that. It's not like you're racing in an open wheel car where they can absolutely wreck the suspension, but you get too far much onto those in a GTE like this, it'll really throw you off balance and cost you a couple of tenths.
P5 in the LMP2s. P5 currently occupied by Tiensai Leighton, trying to hold off David Duino right now. He's in the draft, going down the front straight, but through Elf, not quite close enough to send it in there. They're going to keep running it single file at the moment, and Duino's going to have to wait until that long back straight once again to make a move, unless there's a mistake from Leighton.
Exactly, Joey, and that may be a little bit of what he's trying to do, but I wanted to point out as he went through Renault there, you see how he's taking a slightly different line that's very heads-up driving from Duino. He's just trying to poke a little bit of the outside of the car out of the dirty air, get some clean air onto those front drive planes, and try to create a little bit of front-end downforce on that car when they go through the sweepers. Very, very smart, and it's allowing him to catch up a little bit. You see that gap really starting to diminish there through the second part of that first sector.
He's just going to have to line it up through these last couple corners as we see Jeffrey Ooms is looking at third place. He is in third place. Horacio Calquin is looking to make the pass back, but that has not happened just yet. The number 19 car here going through the last couple corners. We're seeing a little bit of a train from second on back. The gaps are closing, but no one seems to be able to make a pass just yet, and maybe they're just waiting for an opportunity.
Jump back here, taking a look at P8 in the GTEs. This is Moraes, it looks like, leading a whole train of cars. Pime Jr., McDonald, Barretto, Trepanier. You really hit the nail on the head. Oh, that's a big off there. I believe that was James David getting into trouble.
We're gonna have to check a replay on that one. I saw a lot of smoke there. James David was in 8th place. That's gonna be quite a few positions lost. I think he might have just clipped the gravel on the outside and sent it for a spin.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Joey. Just got those left side tires a little bit off. Very good of David to be able to catch it and only managed to lose 2 spots out of that. And look at the hit of the battle, and oh! There goes Moraes around off into the wall!
That's what happens when you got a train of cars like this. They stack up through turns 1, 2, and 3, and someone's got to take the brunt of it. As we look at the replay here, it was just a little bit of late, not even late braking, it's just a little bit of a misjudgment in terms of how far or how fast Luis Pime Jr. was going to get off the corner, and it resulted in a punt.
Yes, and my apologies there too, more as that was Pine Jr. that went off. You saw him take a little bit too much of that inside curb into Elf. I think that upset the car and slowed him down a little bit more. But this is jumping back up to David.
Back up to James David in 8th place in class. Forgive me, I said he fell from 8th place before. He did not when he saved that little half spin earlier. Holding off Jennifer McDonald now. The gap about 4/10 as we go through this long left-hander through these last couple corners of the track. You can see that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's about 8 cars in a train behind David for 8th now, and there's more ahead.
Yeah, it's something we're very used to seeing here at the Circuit de Catalunya. You can really see just how much it is. Oh, that's David coming into the pits there. I wonder if he's picked up some damage that he needs to get repaired. So that is going to release McDonald, Barretto, and Lowendick off into the distance.
Up to Jeffrey Ooms, currently in 3rd place in LMP2. But Horacio Calkeen right behind, trying to hunt him down.
Yeah, Cal Quinn here really hasn't been able to close the gap that much. We see there Cal Quinn's onboard. Very good under braking. A little bit squirrely there on corner exit, though. You see all the little micro corrections he's having to do. Very, very cool. Deliberate through the corner. A little bit of oversteer. That car looks like it's a little tail happy right now, and Cal Quinn just having to fight it ever so slightly.
See that he gets close in the braking zones, but as we go through those fast sweepers in the last sector, this falls back a little bit, but he is in the draft here of Ooms coming down the front straight. To be just a little bit too far back to send one down the inside into Elf, though.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have it, and this is really the story of what we've seen everywhere today thus far, Joey. I thought we'd see a lot more overtaking, but I think drivers just not really being able to take into account as much dirty air as we are seeing. And so what we might start seeing develop here is a little bit of a strategy race where drivers are just choosing to lay back behind another car and maybe save a little bit of fuel down these long straights.
Back to our leader in GTE, that is Don Squarick, defending winner from Long Beach, currently nursing a 1.8 second lead over Michael Ross. Michael Ross did bring the gap down a couple tenths that lap as Mauricio Cuero is reaching the first of the lap cars. That is Kwok Nin in the Ford GT.
Indeed, and this is where the fun is going to begin. Now, we always like to say the traffic giveth and the traffic taketh away. So we are going to have to see how these LMP2s are able to cope with it. We've seen how hard it is to pass a driver within your class. Hopefully, it's going to be a little bit easier as these LMP2s work their way through the field.
Well, if you're in 2nd place, you hope it isn't easy for Mauricio Cuero to get by those lapped cars. You want to get any chance you can to bring that 4-second gap down. And Mauricio Cuero did pass Kwok Nin. Next lap car will be Jerome Bertiome. I believe that'll take at least 1 or 2 laps to catch the back of the rest of the field. But after that, it's going to get crazy.
It is indeed. We're going to jump back here to that Ooms-Cal Quinn battle as they are about to catch Kwok Nin here. Ooh, little bit of a check up there from Ooms, and Cal Quinn may have a chance to attack here. Oh, just a hair too far back, but ooh, he keeps his nose in it, trying to get something going through Repsol, not able to get the speed, and Ooms able to carry on with the momentum around the outside. Runs a little bit defensive, though, down into Sion.
The inside of that corner, it's just a little bit too tight to make a move work there. But it looks like Calkeen's just happy to hang back a little bit. He sent his nose in there, but now he knows that Ooms knows that he's there. And he just needs one more mistake and he'll slot right in there. But Ooms pulls away through Campson there. That was a great run. You see the effect of dirty air, but Calkeen's not going anywhere.
No, he is not, and I think he's trying to play a little bit of mind games. Now, Joey, I'm going to have to take a closer look at these cars, but judging just how well Ooms was able to get through Campsa, I wouldn't be surprised if he's maybe running a little bit more of a higher downforce setup to be able to get it there, and that's why we've seen Cal Quinn be able to close a lot on the beginning of the straight, but not really attack too hard anywhere after that.
Oh. Stacy Kyle Dunnigan. We're going to take a look at a replay here. Currently the last placed finisher in the LMP2 class, or the last placed runner rather. Oh, just a clip of the grass and that sends it around. But up in the LMP2 class, we're going to stay in the LMP2 class. Jeffrey Ooms still third, but we saw Horacio Calquin go for a move through turn 1. Wasn't able to make it stick, though. But Calquin is definitely not happy to hang around here. He wants to make it up to third and try and chase down his teammate.
You are indeed correct there, Joey. He's really got the bit between his teeth. They went side by side through Elf and all the way almost up through the hill. And we saw, again, a little bit of a dive from Calquin going through Repsol. That's not normally an area where you see a lot of overtaking, but Calquin just feels like the car, he's got it set a little bit better there, so that may be an area that we watch out for him. Much better pass there through SIMMSA. He's got some more speed here, so let's see what he does.
I think if the hairpin was the layout we were running, we might have seen a dive there, but just the fact that the Laikaixa, it's a little bit more sweeping. It's not necessarily a tight little hairpin with a tight braking zone, so you have to be way closer to make a move than Calquin was. But as we go through the last couple corners, once again, we're going to see if he can replicate what he did on the last lap. He's much closer than he was last time he tried to try this. In the draft, down to turn 1. Will he pull out? Yes, he does. Can he be late enough on the brakes to make the move on Jeffrey Ooms? No, he spins, and he spins Ooms in third across the track. Did Leighton get involved there too? Yes, that's like the entirety of the LMP2 field wiped out in one corner.
That was Dunnigan there that caught a big piece of that. The inside Leighton looked like he was able to navigate his way through and take up into third. So let's go back and check this out. This is, I think, a definition of what we would call a racing incident. Calquin coming with a full head of steam, dives to the inside, late on the brakes, as you say, and I think he just locked up ever so slightly there. Ooms turned him down a little bit. Very, very heads-up driving from Leighton to get through there, and Dunnigan just left with nowhere to go.
It's a very unfortunate situation. We're going to take a close look at this car. Do you see any damage on Calquin's car? There must be a little bit from that lockup, but it doesn't look too bad.
I see a little bit of damage on the left-hand side there potentially, but it doesn't look nearly as bad as I thought it would, Joey. I honestly think that Ooms was really, really the one that got caught out by it. Genuinely, I think the spin and the initial contact didn't really damage either car, but Dunnigan coming into Ooms the way he did, that's what really damaged it. Yeah, there you can see on the right side of Ooms' 97, that right side all tore up.
Yeah, we saw Ooms get some air there, and you never like to get air in a little light carbon fiber body car like an LMP2 car. So the lead now for GTEs. Don Squirk still leads by 3 seconds, but now we see a little bit of a train further back here.
We do indeed. This is the battle for 12th place. This is Arsenault, Langlois, Trepanier, Luna, and Plord. Big train forming once again. Now, we've seen a couple of times that a train like this will form. Ooh, there come the LMP2s working their way through. I do believe that is our leader, the number 75, at Don Squirk. That's going to throw a wrench into this little battle.
That's the 79 of Mauricio Cuero, our race leader, making his way through this LMP2 traffic, or not LMP2 traffic, GTE traffic. But this is not necessarily a place you want to reach GTE traffic, as that one's very nice getting out of the way. But through these fast corners, even when you're the leader, getting dirty air from a GTE car, that's one surefire way to lose your 5-second lead.
It is indeed. It is certainly what I would like to refer to as suboptimal. But there, as they come out onto the straightaway, Cuero, they're going to get a little bit of luck being able to get by Lavadier. Now sets his sights up ahead of him on Lowendick and Beretta, who are locked in a battle for position. Oh, this is exactly where he doesn't want to catch them. And already Munoz has been able to claw in about a second courtesy of this traffic.
As we say, the traffic giveth and the traffic taketh away. You see the leader, you see the guy in front of you reach traffic, and you're like, yes, it's going to hold him up, and then he gets through, and you're just like, wow, I have to get through the same traffic. What was I so excited about?
Exactly, right on board here, checking back on that battle that Quera just passed. This is Teddy Lowendick that we ride on board with. I want to give some shout-outs to Teddy. We've found out that he was married since the last time you've seen him, so congratulations to Ted and his lovely bride. Right now, though, he has got his eyes set up ahead of him. That is Lou Barretto in the red Ferrari he's trying to chase down.
Very focused. He's got his eyes set on the red rear of that car. But again, just not quite close enough to send a dive through that corner. And I'm looking up at the clock. We've only got 28 minutes left. The first 15 minutes of this race, the first third, has flown by.
It certainly has, and now we start to think about that pit stop window. Now, normally we see these LMP2s in particular take this out as long as they can go. Now, there is a lot of on-power section here at Barcelona, so it's a very power-thirsty and fuel-thirsty circuit. Wouldn't be surprised if we see leaders in, I would say, within the next 10 minutes or so.
As we see Rafael Russo working on Michael Ross. Last lap for Russo was a 38.39. Last lap for Ross was a 38.54. So that gap was over a second. It's now below a second as Ross tries to chase down Russo here. Do you think we're starting to see maybe a little bit of tire wear? It's only been about 18, 19 minutes, but do you think we're seeing some tire wear start to show up in these GTE cars?
Well, I don't know, Joey, if it's necessarily tire wear, as normally we don't see these guys make a tire change. They're pretty good to the end of the race. I do think, however, with the track temperature of 105 degrees, we could see a little bit of tire heating that they're worried about. Now, the way the tire model tends to work on iRacing is if you get those tires hot, it's going to act like that they're blistering, that they're scraping off a lot of speed and grip. And so you may have to spend a lap or two cooling them down, being deliberately. But we've got an incident, I believe, in LMP2. That's Eisler.
Let's take a look at the replay, see if there's anyone else involved. I think Eisler was racing with Leighton, but I don't think Leighton was involved. Looks like it may have been a little bit of an incident with the lap traffic as Eisler goes down the hill here, gonna send it down the inside. Oh, just a little bit of a crossover into the nose of that GTE car. I think Eisler thought he would be clear into the braking zone there, and he wasn't.
Yeah, and that was Gabriel Lavadier there in the 338 BMW. Just as you said, Joey, a bit of miscommunication there from the two, and Eisler's going to take this time to come into the pits a little bit early, maybe hope for an undercut and repair a little bit of damage you may have picked up.
And I believe Eisler is the first LMP2 car to pit legitimately, not after having taken much damage. Eisler, he took a little bit of damage. He tapped the wall over in the gravel there, but I don't think this is a stop to fix any kind of legitimately race-ending damage.
No, I wouldn't imagine so. We're going to keep an eye on him here. Yeah, that's a pretty quick in and out for him, right about in the window that we would expect. So I think that may have just been a little bit of a mental reset from Christian Eisler going, you know what, I'm going to be down. Let's try for an undercut and see if I can just wait those 10 seconds in the pit, be stationary, and regather my thoughts.
Back to Ted Lowendick again. We've been talking a lot about him in this broadcast tonight. He's currently sat in 9th place, holding off Lou Barretto. He got by Lou Barretto, actually. We missed that move, but Ted finally got sick of being stuck behind Lou Barretto, and he made the pass here up to 9th. At P12 is Jean-Claude Langlois, Patrick Arsenault. It's a big old fight back here. As we see two cars side by side, that's Johnny Luna, I believe, in the Corvette to the inside, and Trepanier falls back.
Does indeed, and they had to be very careful as that was Stacey Kyle Dunnigan flashing by, but that slowed up Luna, and Trepanier is going to have a little bit of an assault here coming down the main straightaway. They drag race into Elf. Let's see who has the advantage. It looks like Trepanier is going to be able to hold the inside. That's going to be Luna trying for an over-under, but no, Trepanier says, I will have my position back. Thank you very much, sir.
It's a little bit of a squeeze from Langlois into the braking zone there. Kind of put Luna onto the curb, but no harm, no foul. They both kept it rolling. Luna down to, very late in the brakes, almost into the back of Langlois, but they keep it rolling, and lucky netcode didn't play a role there.
Very, very lucky, but you can also notice in that thing, we talk about it a lot, those Corvette brakes, very finicky. You've got to be very, very precise with them, but if you know how to get them to work, they can be incredibly strong. And so a good explanation of that. Now let's stay on board here with Johnny Luna. Let's see how they handle SIMMSA. Big lift there from Luna and a big bite of opposite lock. That car not liking following dirty air through that tight, or that sweeping right-hander.
Now we saw Lowendick get by Barretto, but now Barretto has got back by Lowendick. These guys are switching positions every lap, it seems.
They do indeed. A very, very evenly matched battle here between the two. Barretto's starting to pull a little bit of an advantage now. I believe that is Stacy Kyle Dunnigan, who we saw fly through Trepigny and Langlois earlier, now coming to the back of Lowendick. Those two are satellite team teammates. Ooh, late move there on Barretto. That's going to cost Barretto a little bit of time. Is this going to be the chance for Lowendick to attack?
He certainly got closer, but I don't think he's quite close enough to make a move. He was very much helped by his satellite team's LMP2 car, but good on Barretto, giving the LMP2 room and keeping that 10th place, 9th place in class right now. But this battle is not over yet. Lowendick just trying to find the air where Barretto isn't. It's a little bit like oval racing, honestly, through some of these corners. It's just trying to find the place where the other car's air isn't. You can get a little bit more of a run, just trying to do switchbacks in basically every single corner until one of them finally works.
I think that's a fantastic analogy there, Joey, and it's exactly right. Very, very tricky to try to follow behind in the dirty air around Barcelona with as long as sweeping as these corners are. You see Teddy just trying to do anything at all to get by.
I think his next best chance is going to be down the front straight again. He gets a better entry to the corner, but has to back it up, so the exit's just a little bit worse. But through the final corner, Lowendick chasing down Barretto down the front straight, the BMW versus the Ferrari. There is a little bit of a difference in straight line speed, as we see Lowendick in 6th gear in the draft, but he's not going to be close enough to go for a dive into turn 1 this time.
No, he's really not. Looks like he didn't get the best exit out of New Holland. That cost him a little bit. Barretto took a lot of curb there through the second part of Elf. Maybe that's going to play into Teddy's hands. Let's see if he can maybe make this move work through Repsol as they come up through Renault right now. He is getting closer. That gap has resolved itself down to about 2.5 tenths of a second. Teddy taking a narrow line there through Repsol. Not able to get it done there, but he is close.
It seems like he's faster in the BMW through the twisty corners here. There's a car up ahead of these two that appears to had a little bit of a problem. That's Paulo Munoz in 2nd place. That's LMP2 cars run into trouble. Not in 2nd place in LMP2 anymore. Try and see if we can get what happened here as Lowendick trying to chase down Barretto still. That's a great run through SIMMSA there. He's not quite going to be side by side going into La Caixa.
All right,
Take
we're
a
gonna,
look.
yeah,
What
exactly.
Paulo Munoz, DJ, talk us through what happened.
Joey, I think that's an internet issue. I'm seeing right on my screens right here, we've got a throughput problem that may have been something for Munoz. So let's just double check here to make sure that this wasn't a driver error. Comes up out of the bend here, works his way up through that right, left. Yeah, that's an internet issue. He just DC'd.
Yep, I just saw the confirmation in the chat. Those dreaded 6 words, receive throughput, fell to unacceptable level. That is one of the most heartbreaking things you can experience as a driver. You did nothing wrong, and the internet kicked you out.
Absolutely heartbreaking indeed. But we're going to jump back here to take a look at our battle for P2 in the GTE classes. Rafael Russo not letting that Ford GT of Michael Ross get too far out of sight.
We've seen the gap stagnate just a little bit at about 8 or 9 tenths. Last lap for Russo, though, was 4 tenths faster. So he is working on a charge here as we see Stacey Kyle Dunnigan back up into the top 5 after a little bit of attrition in the LMP2 class, but working their way through this GTE traffic and reaching Ross at an inconvenient moment, maybe putting Ross a little bit offline, but Russo can't quite capitalize just yet.
Can't do it quite yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if Russo was hanging back a little bit there in the middle stages of this race, as we are now done under 20 minutes to go, so we are over halfway here, and I think Russo knows that it is now time to really put that loud pedal to the floor if he wants to try to move up here and get a move done on Michael Ross, especially considering I am expecting pretty much everybody to be coming into the pits, LMP2s probably within the next 5 to 6 minutes, and the GTEs within the next 10 minutes.
Now, Mauricio Cuero in the LMP2s, I think he has the easiest pit strategy of them all. He has a 16-second gap back to second, an 18-second gap back to third, and a 35-second gap back to fourth. So, do you think he can basically pit whenever he wants and he'll be fine?
More than likely, yes, but he also does need to take into consideration where some slower GTEs are going to be coming out. As it looks, as you see to the left of the screen there, that looks like we do have a GTE pitter. That is Lavadier coming in. But he's going to want to be careful. He doesn't want to come out in a whole spat of GTE traffic. Even with that 16-second advantage, it can be very, very disconcerting and throw you out of a groove. He wants to come out kind of where he is right now in perfectly clean air.
And we've seen a couple incidents with lap traffic in this race, so you can never get too confident and too comfortable. Even with a 17-second lead, you still got to be on it for the last 17 minutes, or else you're going to have a very, very embarrassing experience. But I don't think Mauricio Cuero is going to be thinking like that. He's going to be on it for these last 17 minutes and try and extend that gap for as far as he can over Leighton, who's now in second, and Colquhoun is now in third. Ben Laughter now in fourth. He started at the back, and it's worked out for him so far. He's made up 5 positions.
Gonna ride on board with Ben Laughter here, one of our onboard cameras. You can see Ben there in VR, watching through. Quick little glance down to the right. I think he was just checking his mirrors there. Ooh, big moment of oversteer coming out of that corner. Now, this is great. You can see just how much he is looking through that corner, not going over and not looking where he is, but looking where he wants to go. You saw him take the glance up. Now, that is the virtual mirror he was looking at. Ooh, big mistake there. I think he looked away, maybe checking some fuel numbers, and made a mistake.
It's just like when you're in a real car, you take a look somewhere else, you're looking at a screen, you're looking at your relative box, and that can lead to a mistake. But he has been surprised. He's been completely clean all race long. He started from the back because he didn't want to run into trouble, and it's worked out for him. But I'd like to take a look back at the GCE class, the battle we've been talking about for basically the whole race, Ross and Russo. It's down to 4 tenths, so Russo definitely making inroads there.
Certainly is. Really starting to make a charge. Look at that varying line there going into that corner. Very interesting from Russo. Costs him a little bit of exit speed, but I think he's trying to get into Michael Ross's head here and see if he can't force the driver of the 67 into a mistake.
No mistakes yet, as we see States Kyle Dunnigan going by again to, I believe, stay on the lead lap. Yep, still on the lead lap. But Russo just, that gap expanded quite a bit through the last couple corners and wasn't able to capitalize on it.
Well, we've heard them talk about this a couple of times before, Joey. This is where driving that Ford GT for Michael Ross is going to come to his advantage. We saw him at Road America be able to hold off Squarick because of the massive front top line speed advantage that the Ford GT had. And I think that's what he's really capitalizing here. We're seeing Russo be able to close down through the twisty bits, but once they get into the straights where you traditionally think of as a good passing zone, that Ferrari just doesn't quite seem to have the top end to get him.
He's just got to, I think, force Ross to just get a little bit offline through the last corner so the top speeds can even out just a little bit. You can see he's so much faster Russo is through this middle sector, through the twisty corners. But again, down to Lakaisha, just not close enough. I don't think anyone has been all race to throw a dive in there. You can see so late in the brakes in the Ferrari. He's all over the back of that Ford, but as we go through the last couple corners, down the straight again, we'll see that gap expand up to 0.6 again, I think.
I think you're about right, and as we continue to watch, just a quick note that Mikel Plord and Jerome Bethune both came into pit on that last lap. Arsenault in the lap before them, and there's the move. Russo is going to try to get Ross on an undercut, so this is one of the first-year leaders. Squarick also in from P1 in GTE.
So that will promote Michael Ross to the lead of GTE for now. We'll see how that cycles out. Don Squarick, the dominant car all day in the pits. We'll see if he can get a decent stop here. He doesn't need a fantastic stop. He just needs a solid stop, and he comes out without issue.
Yeah, and behind Russo, looks like Cope, Janae, Moras, Barretto all coming in. Teddy Lowendick opting to stay out, as does EJ O'Donnell Lyons and Jennifer McDonald. Don Squarick looks like he is going to exit in P4, only about 2.8 seconds behind Jennifer McDonald. There you can see what we assume will be the race leader once the pit stops have cycled through.
See how far Ross can take this. If he thinks an overcut might work a little bit, if the LMP2s meet Squarick and meet Russo at the right time. But you can see further back there, that is an LMP2 car chasing down Squarick and Lowendick, and Horacio Calquin, our LMP2 third place runner at the moment in the pits.
As is Ben Lafter behind him. There he is coming out of the pits. Now let's see if he makes any adjustments on the wheel. Sometimes you'll see these drivers maybe make a brake balance adjustment with some added fuel. No, I think Horacio feels good about where he is. He is just going to get back and down to business.
Horacio's main battle was with Tianzai Leighton for second place. That gap was down to about a second when Calquin came in. We'll see if he can capitalize on this undercut here, but he is coming out right in a little pack of GTE cars.
He is, and speaking of undercut there, Joey, Michael Ross is in the pits, so here is the deciding factor. Let's see if staying out a lap longer will help that GT, or if it is advantage Rafael Russo.
Well, our leader, Don Squarick, has just crossed the line. He'll be comfortably in the lead, but back to Russo. He's just come through the last corner. As Ross comes out of the pits, this is going to be ridiculously close.
It is Ross getting up to speed, and I think he's been able to cover it off there. You can see about a second and a half shorter in the stop for Michael Ross. Now, he may have to do a little bit of fuel saving, so this battle may not be done, but for right now, they come out the same way that they went in.
Like you said earlier, no tire changes, so you're not really going to be worrying about cold tires. But up front, Mauricio Cuero, he and Leighton still haven't pitted yet, but we assume when they do, they'll stay where they are. Leighton may actually get overtaken by Calquin, but we'll see what happens when the pit stops happen. Cuero, how much longer do you think he's going to take it?
Well, it's a bit surprising here, Joey. I normally expect the LMP2s to come in a hair earlier than the other ones, but you're seeing the LMP2s go a little bit longer. I've got to imagine we are going to see Cuero, Calquin, Leighton, all these boys in within the next couple of laps.
And there is no chance to make it to the end without a stop. Oh, and there he comes. Yep, Cuero into the pits from the lead. We assume Leighton will be in as well. They're taking this as late as humanly possible. But Cuero's got to bring it into the box, have a no-nonsense stop, and then it'll be a 10-minute sprint to the finish.
And behind him, Leighton is diving into the pits as well. Now let's take a look at the pit stop comparison here as we keep that up with Cuero. Let's see how much or how little fuel he's going to take. Now behind them, remember, Calquin has pitted. That battle's going to be between Leighton and Calquin as they come out.
Calquin navigating through Lakaisha right now. We'll see how that compares to Leighton, as Leighton has just come to a stop in the pit box. This is going to be very close in the battle for second place.
It is indeed. There we see looking on to the main straightaway. Now Leighton stationary in the box and out and on the way. I can see Cal Quinn coming up behind. I think Leighton indeed is going to have him. He's got to be careful. That's Patrick Arsenault right there to his inside. Arsenault got to be very careful not to give a pinch to the points leader in the LMP2. They both give each other plenty of space. So Leighton able to stay out ahead, but that gap back to Cal Quinn only about a second and a half.
I think Kalkeen wished that GTE car hung out on the outside like it did for Leighton, but now Kalkeen's job is to close in on Leighton, chase him down. We saw a little bit of a pace advantage before that pit stop. We might have seen an overtake in the pits, but it didn't happen, so now Horacio's going to have to do it on the track. Ben Laughter, we thought he was safe in fourth, but Christian Eisler has come back from that incident with that GTE car earlier. A little bit of a crossover attempt from Laughter. Laughter sends it down the inside. Laughter's not giving up fourth easily, but the inside just a little bit too much of a slide, and Laughter can't hold the momentum there for fourth.
Yeah, and remember, Eisler had that incident earlier, and he is fighting back to get back up higher in the grid. Laughter here trying to hold on to it, and holy goodness gracious, look at Eisler just run away into the distance.
Up in second, Kalkeen is absolutely closing up on Leighton, but a little bit of a clip of the gravel. You don't want to be doing that too much. You do that wrong, and you're spinning into the inside wall. But he keeps it going in a straight line as they navigate through a couple more of these lapped cars. Kalkeen was so fast through the last couple corners, but he seemed to have lost a little bit down the straight.
He did indeed, and you know what? I've got to say, looking at those cars, I'm pretty convinced that Leighton is running a lower downforce setup. I think he's only got one dive plane on the front of the car, whereas Cal Quinn may have two.
We can see that that's definitely working down the straights, but through the middle section of the track, we can see Kalkeen chasing down Leighton. The gap currently sits at 1 second exactly. But as we go up the hill here, we can look at the... Oh, Kalkeen's actually falling back. He had a great lap on the outlap there, but Leighton's starting to pull away now.
He is.
The Ross and Russo Show, welcome back. Michael Ross still defending from Rafael Russo. The gap down to half a second. We normally see it at about 6/10 between these two on the straight, but I think Russo got a little bit of a better exit. But again, the grunt of that 4GT down the front straight, it's able to keep Ross at a comfortable enough distance that Russo can't even think about sending it down the inside.
Indeed, but looked like Rafael Russo got a little bit out of sorts there coming through the first part of Elf. I saw him deliberately have to straighten the car back up, and I think that cost him about 1/10 of a second. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is that as Russo continues to try to chase here, he can't be too terribly aggressive because Thomas Cope behind him is only about 1.3 seconds back. So if these guys get locked into an absolute duel with each other, Cope could be very interested in that and may be able to catch up. We see on board with him here now.
We haven't talked much about Thomas Cope all day. He's been just kind of hanging out in fourth, it seems, but like you said, as Ross and Russo battle, we're only 5 minutes left in the race, so if they start going side by side, if Russo finally is able to try and make a move, Cope is going to be right there to make the move. They got so close through Lakaisha there, Ross and Russo.
Indeed, they did. Russo very good on the brakes. Now, here's the other thing to keep in mind. We kind of mentioned this right when Ross came out of the pits. Now, he has just about the fastest lap or fastest pit stop out of any of your leaders here. He's faster in the box by about 1.5 seconds to Rafael Russo. So there may be a little bit of fuel saving that Ross has to do of this race. Is that going to hurt that forward straight line speed?
It absolutely will, as we see Russo. He took a little bit of a peek down the straight, saying, hey Ross, I'm here. If it comes down to the last lap, I'm not afraid to send it there. But he's just hanging back here trying to get something going. That's a very interesting line through that corner. He was taking the outside. But down the hill, a little bit of a blink. It's tantalizing. He's so close to being able to make the move, but he's still unable to do it.
Indeed, Joey, and really and truly, he was closer there coming up through Renault than I'd seen him in previous laps, and I think what he's trying to do at this point is he's worried he may not be able to get the pass actually done here, and he may just be trying to see if he can throw some things at the wall and see what sticks. Just trying to poke his nose out a little bit, see if he can scare Ross into a mistake. There's a little bit of one. Ross took a little bit too much of an inside curve there coming through SIMMSA. Straight line speed, though, coming back to help out that 4GT. Not going to be able to get it done here. He's going to stay in line, Russo is, and see if he can find another way past that white Ford.
Russo so late on the brakes compared to that Ford GT, but you can see, take a look at the gap between the cars right now. There's about maybe 1-2 car lengths. Through this corner, the Ford GT pulls it to about 2 car lengths. Through the last corner, the Ford GT pulls it to about 5 car lengths. And down the straight, normally he'd pull an extra car length, but Russo not giving up this time. I think you hit the nail on the head with the fuel saving from Ross. Russo does another little bit of a peek as, is that Mauricio Cuero? No, that's Tiensai Leighton catching this battle for second, and he's in his own battle for second because he's got Horacio Calquin still back there.
And he got very held up there through Elf. That's going to allow Calquin to catch up a little bit to hopefully, if he's able to get by these guys quickly. Takes a dive to the inside before they line up for Repsol. Goes into the braking zone. That put Ross offline ever so slightly. Look here, seeing if he can get anything. Not able to get the power down.
There's a big slide from Calquin. That was definitely going to be worrying for Ross as Russo gives him a little bit of a touch there. A little bit of a tap to the back of that Ford GT. He's telling him, hey, I'm here. 2 minutes left in this race. I'm going to go for it.
Indeed he is, and just as our predictions came true, we look out the back of Rafael Russo's car, and that is the Porsche of Thomas Cope that is caught right back up to this battle. So that little scrap in front doing that. There you see Russo poking his nose to the outside, trying to just fill up those rear view mirrors of Michael Ross and force him into a mistake if he can, but Cope got a better exit there, and now he starts to challenge Russo as they come up through the right-hander.
The battle for second we thought was happening is now the battle for second, third, and fourth. As Don Square drives off into the distance, we've got a 3-way battle for second place, but they don't care that it's second place. They're going to treat this like it's the win. As all 3 cars come down the straight here, it was not a good exit for Michael Ross. Russo's going to be closer than he ever has been before. Will he send it to the outside here? Ross defends the inside. Russo to the outside. Can he be late enough on the brakes to sweep it around?
He's going to try to, and he gets it done. It looks like he is passed and through, and Thomas Cope even looking like he may have a little bit of a run. Let's see if the Ford GT has anything to fight back with. It doesn't look like it because Cope is now on a charge. They climb the hill up into Repsol. He's going to be on the inside. Cope late on the brakes and past the 67. Ross now out of podium position.
An excellent move from Thomas Cope, making it up to third, but we're going to go up to Mauricio Cuero. He's been up front for every single lap of this race. The gap expanding to 25 seconds here as he's going to come to cross the line to take the white flag for that Punto CL Racing Rojo team.
We haven't shown a whole lot of them here on screen, but that's because we've had some good battles back in the field. But Cuero, once again, the absolute class of the field. And important to keep in mind, depending how these bonus points play out here today, I think he is either going to be 1 point or maybe even tied with Tiensai Leighton.
Calquin, he's got 1 more lap to go for the move on Leighton. He's just got to hope that these couple of lap cars, that's Johnny Luna in that pink and gray Corvette. But Leighton has just been able to pull away. We've seen a lot of slides from Calquin, and that seems to have slowed him down, and he hasn't been able to bring the momentum back up. But the final lap is also for Don Squarick, another dominant leader. He's led just about every lap in the GTE class, but as we see Mauricio Cuero navigating through the final corners of this race, he's got nothing to worry about. Through La Caixa one final time. He can take it nice and easy. You know, the Punto CL team, they didn't start out in iRacing. They started out in the early days of esports, in Counter-Strike, CSGO, that kind of first-person shooter sort of thing. And I think Mauricio Cuero has put on a performance worthy of the United States military that sponsors those games. Mauricio Cuero dominates, strikes, all the words you want to use against the field. A dominant victory. Back to Don Squarick. Another dominant performance. I don't think Don has any CSGO history, so we don't have any anecdotes to use for him, but we don't need any anecdotes to use for him, because that Ferrari, it's doing what a Ferrari's meant to do. It's meant to win races, and he's got 2 more corners to go. He's got 12 seconds back to Rafael Russo, and that is going to be a dominant win in the GTE class for Don Squarick.
Absolutely mega drive from him, and we're going to flash back here to the remnants of that battle that is now separated. Russo able to hold on, and once he took that second place away, and Cope going to cross the line in second. Ross behind them to finish off the podium in what seems like a very, very long time for the Ford GT driver.
As the last couple cars come by to finish their laps, we are going to throw it to a break here, and when we come back, we'll talk to the top 3 drivers in each of the classes. And as we welcome you back to the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya for one final time, let's take a look at the finishing results of this round 5 of the PRL Sportscar Championship. Mauricio Cuero, a dominant victory over Tiensai Leighton. Then in third place, Horacio Calkeen after that fierce battle for second. Then Christian Eisler fights his way back to fourth, and Ben Laughter finishes fifth. Last car in the LMP2 class was Stacey Kyle Dunnigan, last finisher in sixth place. Then Don Squarick won GTE. Rafael Russo followed him. Thomas Cope got up to third in that battle at the end, and Michael Ross down to fourth.
Arnaud Genet rounds out your top 5 in the GTE, followed by EJ O'Donnell, Lines, and Iago Morris. Jennifer McDonald lined up behind them in 8th, with Ted Lowendick finally besting Lou Barreto. We saw that battle taking place over the course of many, many laps, with Barreto rounding out your top 10 in class. Patrick Arsenault was 11th, followed by Jean-Claude Langlois, Vincent Trepanier, and Gabriel Lavadier to round out the top 20 in GTE.
And the rest of the field, Johnny Luna, not going to be over the moon Nin in 21st, followed by Kwok Nin. David Duino ran into trouble. Marc-Andre Desjardins, 24th. James David in 25th. Michel Plourde, Jerome Bertillon. We saw Paulo Munoz get internet disconnected. Jeffrey Ooms might call this race a Jeffrey Oof. And Luis Pime Jr. down in 30th. But first, we're going to talk to the first place finisher in GTE. Won last week. He won again this week. Don Squerick. That was a dominant win. How'd you do it?
Oh man, that was just a fantastic lights to flag race there. I mean, just kind of had to pull the gap early, which was a little bit difficult. It was kind of a game of 10th for the first probably about 5 laps or so. And then as soon as I started to kind of build that gap, just kind of roll off it a little bit, save the tires because I knew that was going to be critical. The Ferrari just eats its tires, but was able to save the tires and kept good pace all the way through the race. And yeah, one of those really nice, enjoyable races.
Now, throughout the race, we were talking about the differences between the GTE classes. That always plays a role in these races. You talked about the Ferrari eating its tires. What are some of the other main differences that the Ferrari has compared to, say, the Ford or the BMW?
Yeah, so yeah, the Ferrari tends to be a little bit more understeery on entry, and as you start to pick up the throttle, so that's kind of that's the biggest thing you have to overcome with the setup, and then of course eating the tires. Here, the Porsche was really strong. Just the way that thing just squats and grips out of corners. That was kind of the car as I was seeing, times in practice and qualifying. I'm like, Cope and Iago Morales were all pretty close to us, so they were kind of ones that I was kind of watching out for a little bit because I know just how strong that Porsche is here.
And after this race, I believe you have kept your championship lead as we go next week to Road Atlanta. How are you feeling about that?
Oh, I'm loving it. Road Atlanta is my home track. It's only about 40 minutes away from me, so I can't wait.
All right, well, congrats again on the win, Don. And you have anyone else you want to thank before we get you out of here?
Yeah, I want to thank Jesse for his setup. Check out his Spirit Reaper Twitch account. You can see him develop the setups if you follow him. Obviously, all the Radicals Online sponsors, Grandfield Simulation, JRT, Turn Racing, Track Racer, all those for their fantastic support.
All right, that was our winner, Don Squerick. And next up, Rafael Russo, our second place GTE finisher, is with DJ.
Well, Rafael, another week, another battle with Michael Ross. It just seems like we can't separate you guys out on track.
Yeah, man. First of all, congrats to Dom for the amazing results again. Really fast in this track. A track that is not a good one for the Ferraris, but he did amazing. Yeah, man. The race was really difficult. The track was a little bit slippery on the corner, so I tried to keep close to Michael, but Thomas were in an amazing pace as well. So it was probably the race where we can't commit the mistake compared to the others, any mistakes, because we were so close from each other. But at the end, I think Michael suffered a little bit with the tire, so I could pass him. Because in a normal situation, I think I couldn't because he was really fast at the straights, but I take an advantage of some mistakes that he committed and overtake him, and at the end was a great result. I didn't expect that result here in Barcelona. I thought that the Porsches could do better here, like Thomas did really well. But was really happy, and now is looking forward to Road Atlanta.
Well, in terms of that, we saw I think with about 5 to 10 minutes to go after the round of pit stops, it looked like you were starting to really get more aggressive with Michael. You were poking your nose out. You were really trying to, I think it looked like bury your teeth a little bit. Were you trying to force him into a mistake, or was that an issue where you were just trying to find some clean air?
Yeah, after the pit stops, I did 1 or 2 bad laps, but then I get closer to Michael right after these bad laps, so I realized that he probably may be suffering a little bit with the tires due to the low wing setup. So I tried to put a little bit of pressure, but on the other hand, I didn't want to force some movements because Thomas were really close. So it was like a chess, trying to make Michael doing some mistakes. But on the other hand, I have to look in the mirror for Thomas. So it was a really nice battle at the end. Really, really fun.
Well, we just heard what may be some slightly fatalistic words out of Don saying that Road Atlanta is his home track and he absolutely loves it. But do you think you have anything for him? How do you think next week's going to go?
Well, difficult again. Road Atlanta is a really nice track, but also really tricky, especially with the P2. So it will be another great battle. Dom is, of course, it's the favorite again, but it's a track that is like Monaco in F1. We can't predict anything because it's really tiny, really low space to overtake. Of course, we have a straight, a long straight, but I don't know. I'm just sawing some guys playing this week on the officials, and I'm seeing a lot of mistakes, a lot of incidents. So it's a track that we need to pay a lot of attention to finish and have a good result. So it'll be interesting.
I really like that analogy of sort of Monaco. I would have never thought of that, but I think you're pretty much spot on with it. Well, Rafael, this is another great race result for you. Anybody you'd like to thank for it?
Yeah, our partners at Think Outside the Box, and especially my teammates that practice with me all week long. And we are trying to keep the first place in the teams championship. So I thank the guys a lot for the practice this week.
Well, thank you very much, Rafael, and congratulations again. And now Joey Tebben has caught up with one of our onboard drivers, Ben Laughter.
Ben Laughter finished 5th in the LMP2 class after starting 9th. Ben, that's 4 positions up from where you started. Did you start from the back thinking that you'd avoid the carnage, and it paid off?
A little bit. I started from the back knowing that that's where I'd have qualified anyway. I'm kind of learning these cars, getting ramped up on them, and I just didn't want to be in anybody's way, and I figured, yeah, I can do some surviving.
I mean, we saw you have a pretty good battle. I think that was with Christian Eisler for 4th. You guys were going side by side for a little bit. How enjoyable was that?
It was a lot of fun. These guys don't know me yet. I'm a really tenacious defender. Once I get comfortable, I'll defend all day long. And so it's what I'm used to doing in Camel GT. I'm not good enough in this car yet to hold on for more than a couple laps. But thanks to Christian for humoring me and running me nice and clean there for a while. That was a lot of fun.
I'm looking to the right of this camera shot we have there. I see some stuff. Are those VHSs or those DVDs, video games? What are those?
Lots. It's like 500 or so DVDs across the way there. This will eventually be a media room. We just bought this house in Atlanta real recently here, and so this will eventually be a media room with some lovely things to look at behind. But in the meantime, it's just a racing cave.
Yeah, I think most of us would consider our iRacing setups a racing cave. It's dark, it's damp, it's dingy, but it works.
Works.
You got anyone else you want to thank for your 5th place finish tonight?
It's a good crew. These PRL guys, they race well. It's a very well organized league. I appreciate good organization, and it's been a lot of fun. recently here, I've done Camel GT, ORL at Talladega, and then Nürburgring 24. And so I'm learning lessons about the power of survival and what that can mean for positions. So that just played out well today.
All right, well, congrats again on surviving, I guess. And next up, we will see DJ talking to our third place GTE finisher, Thomas Cope.
Thomas Cope, a very, very good run to third place for you here today. Looked like you were just kind of lurking in the background for most of it, and when the moment came, you pounced.
Yeah, I saw Michael was having a few issues towards the end. I know he's probably struggling with tyres. I know I was struggling with tyres a lot as well. I'm looking at some of the stats towards the end of the sim, and my tyres went down to about 40%. So the tyres were really rough. But yeah, I tried to save him a little bit for Russo and have a nice fight with him, but unfortunately I got set back quite a bit with some of the LMP2s, and I dropped quite a lot of time early on, which kind of brought that fight away, unfortunately, but managed to make up the time and get at least Michael towards the end for the P3.
Well, it was a very exciting run. I can tell you, I was really keeping an eye on you and kind of cheering you on a little bit. But in terms of that traffic, this is kind of a different track to what we're used to seeing you guys run in terms of the traffic differential. Obviously, the dirty air was really, really a problem here today. So how hard was it dealing with some of the faster LMP2s through these sweepers?
Yeah, especially on the long turns, the long fast turns. It really affected the Porsche, I can tell you that. I really struggled. I know a couple of times, a couple of the LMP2s pulled in front of me, and it really pushed the front end out, and I had to really get off the gas to keep the car turned in. And I was losing about a couple of attempts every time, even though the LMP2's overtakes were fine and done before the corner. But yeah, this sort of track, that dirty airs, especially on the fast corners, it can be brutal. And yeah, the Porsche just really couldn't handle it.
Gotcha. Well, I know you had a bit of a rough run last time out in Long Beach, but this is the halfway point of the season. Starting to look at how the championship's playing out. What are your goals going forward for the second half of the season?
From here on out, I'm just trying to get a consistent, clean finish. I know obviously I've had a few incidents. I had Long Beach where I got knocked back a couple of points when I got into an incident with one of the LMP2s late on in the race. Unfortunately, that was my fault, and I accept that. Also, Road America, that was a very brutal race for me. 14 incident points, about 3 crashes, and an internet connection at the end to make up for it. But yeah, I think I've lost 20 championship points through incidents, unfortunately, but I'm just going to try and make up for those and finish cleanly throughout the rest of the season.
Well, we'll be watching to see how you do as we go along. Thomas, it's a podium. Anybody you'd like to thank for it before you go spray some champagne?
Yeah, a big thanks to the Olympus eSports boys, all of them behind my back, keeping me motivated to do this. And the man in my ears as well, Charles Michel. He's always here, week in, week out, doing the best for me, giving me all the advice, giving me all the info I need to make the best judgment calls in terms of pit stops. So massive shout out to him, massive shout out to the Olympus boys helping me train with the setups and stuff like that. And yeah, just everyone behind me, all the sponsors, Stops Earplugs, Moglinger Automotive for us guys. And yeah, just big shout out for those guys helping me do what I do.
Well, congratulations again, Thomas, on a very well-earned third place here tonight. That was Thomas Cope, and now to close out our interviews, Joey Tebben has caught up with a guy who we had our eyes on most of the night, Michael Ross.
Yeah, Michael, that was a heck of a battle you and Rafael Russo were having for seemingly the entirety of the race. How did that feel from your perspective?
Well, you guys got me. I might be having hardware issues here.
Yep, we got you.
All right, cool. Actually, for most of the thing in second, I figured if I had that that 1.4, 1.5 second gap or so, I figured I was pretty good. Most of the race, I wasn't too worried. I wasn't too worried about it. I knew Don was gone. I mean, Don, I told him in the private chat in the race, he was gone if he just kept it on the track. I couldn't touch that pace. I was a little surprised with qualifying second, actually. But a hell of a battle there at the end with Thomas and Rafael, and I just killed the tires. But great race, long battle, very clean. Always fun racing with those guys.
We noticed at the end that it seemed that the straight line speed of the Ford GT was slowed down a little bit. Were you saving fuel in the final stint, or was that just, like you said, the tires going off a little bit?
Nah, that was all the tires going off a little bit. I had enough, just enough actually. The Ford is a little thirstier than I think it should be, but no, that was the tires going off. I just couldn't get a good run up out of the last corner. I kept having to feather it in the middle. And that just killed the top end a little bit. And once Raphael got within 0.4 or something there, I went defensive a couple times, and I figured he wasn't going to try to truck it down the inside. But that last one, we came off the last corner 3/10, maybe 4/10 apart, and I knew I was pretty well in pretty big trouble, because if you take the defensive line into one, you got to get on the brakes earlier, otherwise you're never making that corner. And if you can hang on the outside like he did, then you're in business, and that just compromised exit and then gave Thomas the good run. So no, it is what it is. I'll take P4 after that debacle at Long Beach. So it is what it is.
You certainly kept it exciting. You got anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Just PRL for the league, GSRC for broadcasting. Throw another shout out there to Jeff Neipel for the awesome martini livery. And thank you guys for not making me change it. And it's pretty. I see y'all at Road Atlanta. Hoping for better there. The Ford should be good there. I knew I'd struggle a little bit at this place. So I'll catch y'all next week.
Indeed, we will see Michael Ross and the rest of the field at Road Atlanta next week. But as we wrap up here, DJ, any final thoughts you want to share about the race tonight?
Well, I think we saw again, Joey, just how impressive these guys are running a multi-class field and very, very few incidents. Don Squarick and Mauricio Cuero once again proving the class of the field, but I gotta say, the battle for P2 and those GTEs between Russo and Ross just continues to get better and better every single time out.
Indeed, it does. It's exciting racing throughout the entirety of the field. These guys never let us down, but as we wrap up for tonight, we'd like to thank our sponsors. You can check them out at SIMMSA.net, NinjaTrader.com, and TheButtKicker.com. So thanks to all of them for sponsoring, and thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts that are listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the entire team who helped put on this broadcast today, and thanks to you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media through the outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. The link is in the description below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race for this series, the PRL Sportscar Cup, is at Road Atlanta, Tuesday, May 4th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out, mark them down in your calendar. And hey, you don't even have to leave our channel to watch more sim racing action tonight, so right up next, it's the T2.0 Flying Huskies and the F3 cars at Lime Rock at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So now, for DJ Clark, Sean Ambrose, and Dougie Beard, I'm Joey Tebbett, signing off. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.